Hello and welcome to Low Volume, our little podcast by smallformfactor.net. My name is Josh Ramirez. I have returned, and I am joined naturally by James, aka Abophobia. How have you been doing, James?
Doing good. So really excited to have these things become like a regular thing that gets posted regularly on time. So
Yes, we can do it.
that's something I've been doing this week is uploading the backlog onto YouTube and like seeing the irregularity of the publishing dates was kind of sad.
Yep.
Yes, but we're getting back into the habit.
Well, it's already going live right now.
Yes. And of course, we were also joined today by Confucius, aka John. John, how have you been?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Doing some more tweaks to this. I'm glad you're hosting this time because last time I made a mess of it. But it's kind of to be expected with the new format. It's going to take a little bit of bedding in time, but I think we'll get there.
Yeah, just getting used to it, but it's a new thing for all of us, but we're getting the hang of things, and
Indeed.
I think we've got a good setup. So I say no waiting, no nothing. Let's just jump right ahead and go into the news. And in fact, the first item we have on the top of the stack, this pertains to a story that you wrote a little while ago, John. Intel readying the K-series Core i3 Kaby Lake processor. And you say that this was actually a bit unexpected, but I was hoping you could elaborate a bit on that.
I think it's like my opinion is that it's a bit unexpected because we've never had a unlocked i3 before. It's the i3 is in a strange place in Intel's kind of lineup because you've got your budget processors, the Celeron and the Pentium, and you've got your high-end ones, and it's kind of sitting in the middle, and it's kind of the unloved sibling. So we've had the i7 K series, we've had the i5 K series, we've had the unlocked Pentium, and back in the day we had the unlocked Celerons as well. So it's about time the i3 got a little bit of love from Intel, and looks like we're going to be getting one with Kaby Lake. So exciting, because it's bringing basically, it's a dual core with hyper-threading, but we get the ability to overclock it. It fits in that nice performance per dollar kind of area.
Yeah, so I'm reading through some of the stats now. I'll just recite them for folks that aren't familiar, but we have a part that's clocked at 4 gigahertz with a 4.2 gigahertz turbo boost. And it's actually a 91 watt part with 4 megs of L3 cache. So as you mentioned in the story, the 91 wattage rating is interesting insofar as it's identical to the other 2K SKUs in this generation of processor from Intel. Are any of the other i3 parts that high of a wattage, or is that just unique to the case?
Not for
I don't
newer
think so.
parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would figure it was a lot lower, even if
It's kind
I
of weird.
think they may be doing it to discourage OEMs from using it because most OEM machines, like your typical like cheap HP motherboard type of thing, usually only has a TDP of like 61 watts or whatever, or 65, so that way you can only take kind of like the non-K processors. So I'm pretty sure a K i3 doesn't really need a TDP of 91. I think that's just kind of artificially inflated to kind of force OEMs to not use it. Because I think they're afraid. I mean, enthusiasts buying it and overclocking it, I guess they're okay with. But I think they want to avoid OEMs kind of using them as a way of kind of getting like a cheap alternative to like getting an i5, for instance. So I think that's the reason for that. Because I really can't imagine if you can do like a hyper-threading quad core, like a K series at 91 watt TDP. I really don't see why an i3, like a dual core hyper-threading, would run at the same TDP unless they're like doing like reverse binning. Like they're, rather than bidding for the good stuff, they're bidding it for like the worst performing ones and putting the Ks on that.
That would concern me. Yeah. I think Intel's had a little bit of a history with misrepresenting the wattages on processors. Even back with Sandy Bridge, I had one of the Pentiums, and it was rated at 65 watts, but at full load, even with the integrated graphics, I think it pulled maybe 35.
Yeah, the TDP is usually on the conservative side.
Yeah,
at least with Intel stuff.
I mean, right now I'm running.
I know there's.
Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I know there's a couple parts where like I think they rated at the same just to make it easier for the OEMs, even though actually there's like somewhat noticeable differences in actual power draw, but they'll just rate like a whole series of processors the same just to make it easier. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I think they do it on both sides because I've got in the thermal test rig, I've got a 65 watt dual core APU, and in my main rig, I've got a 65 watt quad core APU, and the quad core definitely puts out more heat.
Yep, that makes sense.
It's also interesting, a quad core APU being at a lower wattage than this i3 SKU.
So the one thing that occurs to me, and this is only because I'm aware of AMD doing it a lot of the time, is what AMD has been known to do, and this is why, as you know, in the past they've been able to sell these kind of weird and wonky 3-core processors, because what they do is they just basically take processors that they fabricated that were quad core, but one of the cores failed when they were doing QC, and they disable that core and then sell the sort of 3-core chip and let that function and whatnot. So is it possible that this is what Intel's doing here, where they're just taking failed Core i5 chips? I don't know if it's exactly halved in terms of the L3 cache and whatnot, but
come to think of it, that would make sense, because
I really doubt that though, because like this isn't a process node shrink, because that happened with Haswell, and then we're on Skylake, which is architectural, and then Kaby Lake, which is optimization. So this is like the third iteration on the same process node. So I would really think by this point they've gotten kind of the manufacturing down pat. So I can't imagine by this time in the game on this process node that their yields are so bad that they have to like bin i5s. So I wouldn't think it'd be happening on like this particular series.
Depends on how big the production runs are though, because I can't imagine a i3 K series processor would be a huge seller, and I wonder if they are just having a few come through, so it's just enough to justify a product. Regarding the wattage, I remember with the Phantom series, the Phantom 2s, sorry, the quads and the 3s were both rated at usually around 89 watts. So even if you bought like a Phantom 555 dual core, it would still be rated at 89 watts. You'd overclock it to the quad core 955, it'd still be 89 watts theoretically. So you just wonder which number's correct.
Well, in any case, I'm noticing that the purported price for this part is $177, which is actually not that bad. I mean, you usually pay a decent premium for K series anything. And I could see how certain folks would be comfortable with using that versus using a lower to mid tier i5 that didn't allow overclocking, and you just overclock the i3 to compensate. Obviously, that's more preferable to the sort of workloads that are either sort of less spread across multiple processes or are less reliant on multi-threading or other things. So great for gaming and whatnot, maybe not so great if you're editing video, but hey, it's another option, another choice in the market, and I'll take it.
I kind of hope they do another Pentium so-called K series as well.
That was an exceptional value.
That was a huge win for Intel on the overclocker kind of
I think
space.
it'd be a harder sell now though, because a lot of the newer games coming out, like they definitely don't take advantage of like an i7 necessarily, but I think we're at the point where like the difference between like a pure like just a dual core 2-thread processor like the Pentium versus like a 4-thread processor like an i3, I think that's become noticeable with some of the newer games.
That's a very good point.
So
what we need is a quad-core Pentium.
I think what the i5 is. It's quad-core without hyper-threading.
Yeah, but you paid for it.
Well, I think rumor is like Coffee Lake, which is the naming is getting ridiculous.
Is that seriously what it is?
That's the one. That's I think the next one, and like this is all very very early rumor stuff. But I think rumor is that Coffee Lake will have a 6-core, so it'll finally bring a hexa-core to the mainstream.
Well, they call it the i9 or something.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm hoping that the pricing drops and they don't just like sell it for like more.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just sell it for more, and it just like what is it? The 70. What did the i7 Cabby Lake is rumored to be like what $380 or something like that.
Sounds about right.
I think I saw that, which is it's getting a little weird because now you can buy a 6-core HEDT processor for less, like the I guess what would it be, the 6800K, was it Broadwell E?
Yeah.
Like that's only like what 360 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
You
it's
got a more
getting
expensive.
weird.
You got a more expensive platform for that though.
Well, yeah, but in principle,
Yeah.
like that processor's clearly superior and it costs less on the table. It's just kind of weird.
I suppose how does it compare on
I'm-
like
I'm
PCI
just waiting
Express
for
lanes
the-
and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the day where, the i3 or whatever the bottom of the performance series of processors baseline is for processors. I know that's probably not a Coffee Lake thing, but
Move the dual core with hyper-threading down to the Pentium, and then the Celeron line would actually make
exactly.
sense.
So Pentium would become 2-core, and then possibly hyper-threaded, and then you'd have 4-core no hyper-threading as like the i3 to start and go up from there. And the reason I'm hoping for that is twofold. A, obviously because it means that the floor performance-wise is raised in a pretty big way. But the other thing too is that I think it would, I mean, we've had multi-core processors for such a long time now, and yet it still tends to be pretty specialized workloads that benefit from having multiple cores and hyper-threading in these technologies. And so for Intel to go out and say, well, okay, even for like bottom of the barrel with the exception of Pentium, the minimum expectation is going to be 4 cores, and instead of investing in super fast cores, we're going to invest in like not as fast but more of them. That would signal pretty strongly to pretty much every single software development firm and indie dev out there that like, hey, you're actually missing out on a crap ton of performance if you don't design and code towards multi-threaded processes, because up until today, even prominent developers have been able to be pretty damn lazy about it.
Yeah.
And that load of trying to optimize towards multiple core processing has been picked up almost entirely by basically Microsoft. With the exception of like, Adobe or some other devs where it's like they really need all the juice they can get. So, for purposes of rendering or whatnot, they actually, code that in.
It's all up to the inbuilt task scheduling and whatever operating system it is to kind of spread the load. Because if it was up to the software developers, would be still running dual cores.
As a software developer, maybe. It's a hardware problem, not a software problem.
Right.
All right, I've had enough of this, so let's move on to the next item.
Did it start getting a little personal there, did it?
No, not at all. No. So the next item in our list is the HP Z2 Mini. It is a almost, sort of, and obviously looks very different, but kind of a Mac Mini sized, like little desktop workstation thing. We posted the press release of it on the website just because we thought it was interesting, but it looks to retail starting at around $699, so that's actually pretty reasonable. And what's interesting about it is the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, John or James, but it looks as if it actually features Xeon chips rather than i3, i5, i7.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's why they can like technically say it's like the world's first mini workstation. And like I don't think the press release says it, but I think there's like a very big asterisk saying workstation because it's a Xeon with ECC RAM. Like that's how like it's able to be classified as a workstation, and thus the other mini computers are not workstations because they do not have Xeons with ECC RAM. So
Good old marketing.
Alrighty then. And then the other interesting thing about it, and there's a picture of it in the press release, but it's hooked up to like this bay of 6 monitors, and they mentioned the fact that obviously this is configurable, but it does support NVIDIA professional, so workstation grade graphics.
Quadros.
Which, yeah, exactly. So that's not going to be geared towards gaming or anything, of course. But if you're doing modeling or if you need to drive a ton of displays, a ton of pixels, then that'll be of benefit. So this is pretty clearly something that is geared towards, the professional market. I mean, again, you can imagine, they have the example of what looks like, some guys trading desks so you can monitor everything. You could imagine someone who day to day maybe is only working off of a couple monitors, but is trying to do some 3D modeling or whatnot. You can, in other words, it's interesting, and it's the first time, to HP's credit, that I'm aware of someone trying to pop a Xeon into that sort of a form factor. I don't know if that's particularly beneficial, but I'll leave that on the table for us to discuss. But especially with the starting price point, $700. I mean, it's interesting, and they know who this is for.
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
It's very targeted, especially with pushing the workstation marketing on it. But I can see the use for the ECC memory, because I've had it before where I've had a large design file and then my system's crashed with a memory error and lost all of it.
Yeah.
Painful. And I imagine that's me doing it in my personal time. If you've got a engineer who's earning whatever an hour, that's a lot of money down the tubes.
No, it is. I remember at my last job, I had this complaint all the time, because all the computers we had, and especially the computers in like the meeting rooms and whatnot, were just ancient and painfully slow. And I was like, are you aware of the hourly rate you're paying me and all your developers to work on these things? If you're like waiting cumulatively 10 minutes every day across all of the computer time, which is like our entire time at the office, like a brand spanking new, like ludicrously fast workstation for everyone pays for itself in like a week.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of management types seem to think of the upfront costs, not what it costs at the end of the year, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, shut up. They're wrong. But in any case, I'm reading through the press release again, and just to share some stats. First off, I'll try and avoid all of the press releasey language. When they kind of talk about their product as if the Lord and Savior has arrived and nothing like it has ever existed before, and your whole purpose of life and existence comes down to the announcement of this product.
Yeah, people get paid good money to write these things.
Yeah, some of them do.
Some of it's whoever was drafted into it at the office.
Yeah. So HP is touting here. Let's see here. Numerous versatility options for storing it on or under the desk, behind an HPZ display, or on a wall. They also apparently created a custom fan and cooling system to try and dampen the acoustics a bit. It's 63% quieter than an HP business class mini PC.
At least they compared it to like their own product, instead of saying it's 63% quieter than it's like comparable on the market.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know how loud that is.
It's still quite loud.
Probably. The HP Z2 Mini design and engineering ingenuity will transform the way people think about workstations and workspaces.
Yeah, and I'm looking at like a spec sheet for this thing, and actually, just real quick, the reason it's able to do all those displays is it actually has 4 full-size display ports on it.
Oh, okay.
Connectors on it.
Yep.
They're not even mini DP; they're actually full-size display port.
That's good.
But anyway, the
adapters.
cooling solution is basically just, it's not really custom. I mean, it's not any more custom than any other like laptop style heatsink. I mean, it's basically the same type of cooler that's in a NUC.
Yeah, we moved the heat pipe by 5 millimeters. It's custom.
Yeah, but, well, yeah, technically it is. Yeah.
What if they moved it by like 5 microns?
You might be pushing it
now?
there. That's becoming a technicality at that point.
So the one other technology that they call out that I've heard of before, but don't know too much, is the HP Z Turbo Drive. So is that just a hybrid hard disk SSD?
It'd be a hybrid.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is, and I think it uses a NVMe drive, if I recall.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, so it's more of a RAID style solution then.
I think we had some kind of... I don't know if we had an article about it. I believe it came up a while ago. But I believe... Oh, I remember why it came up. I think it was using basically... whatever was the high-end Samsung at the time. I forget if this was during the SM951 or the SM961 days. But everybody was interested in it because it was using like those drives. But then the Samsung drive came out and everybody forgot about it. But yeah, so if it's the same drive, then yeah, it's a really high performance drive. And then I believe it's some kind of hybrid solution, or I forget. But I mean, it'd probably be cheaper just to buy the bare bones one and just upgrade it with the Samsung drive anyway. So.
Yeah. Even with HP's own computers, you're better off with Samsung.
More marketing. The octagon form of the HP Z2 Mini is the most uniquely designed HP workstation in HP's 35 years of workstation history. And incorporates HP's
they haven't exactly set the bar terribly high, so I believe that.
Especially with workstations. Like, if they're including their desktop lines, that might be a push because they have done some weird things. But, like, workstation history, they've just been, like, going beige boxes for the last 35 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really find this design particularly... I mean, it's okay. It's not offensive or anything.
I kind of like it.
It's not like, wow, that's really striking. It just looks, you know...
And a very specific 368,000 hours. Could you not just round it to like 350 or 400?
Well, you definitely can't round up, and you don't want to round down.
Well, you just say approximately... or almost 400,000 hours of testing.
Yeah, that doesn't sound as scientific.
Oh, okay.
They should have said that's 42 years of testing is what that is.
Though I'm not sure what exactly that means.
Oh, I don't.
368,000 hours of quality testing. Like, I don't know.
They had a bank of them plugged in.
Exactly. It means they ran 168 of them for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And probably just let them idle 3/4 of the time.
Probably.
It stays on.
No, they're running Minecraft servers. Minecraft servers everywhere.
That's a very hefty test on those, I would think.
They should have been having Bitcoin mining.
Yes.
Oh, it reminds me of
the boys in QA want a pay raise.
Who was it? There was one of the big cloud servers a couple of years ago did a thing where you could spin up your own virtual machine inside their cloud. They were doing some testing, and everyone just signed up to do Bitcoin and folding it home.
I think somebody was like, it was like a tech at a data center was supposed to be like breaking in like a couple racks of servers, and he decided to break them in by running like Bitcoin mining. Yeah, I think he had one of the most powerful single Bitcoin operations going for a while until he got caught.
Yeah. Oh, and with folding at home, there was a while when there's one particular user who was doing more calculations than the rest of the folding at home community combined. Turns out he was testing a cloud setup. Like, just okayed it with the boss. Yeah, I'm going to test it like full snot for a couple of weeks. And everyone's like, holy...
Well, that's okay, because you're doing good for the world, and you're burning in your servers at the same time.
Yeah.
So, like, that's cool.
That was insane.
Using
amount of
company
horsepower.
hardware to personal profit, that's a little bit of a no-no.
Yeah. I think we got a little off topic there. Whoops.
Yes. Let's come back. Let's come back, and I think we're good with this workstation, so we're going to move on to the next bit of news, which is actually something we have to thank Small Form Factor Forum member NateDog72 for, as they share it on the forums. But MSI has actually released the GTX 1050 Ti 4G LP, I guess, is their own little bit of branding there. So this card replaces MSI's GTX 750 Ti, which is a 2 gig card, and the form factor is actually pretty similar to that previous generation part insofar that it's a dual slot design, so 2 slots high. It's got multiple fans, but the profile of the card itself is compacted, so it doesn't use the full, not height but width of the PCI card. And because of
height, it gets a little confusing, but normally that would be called height. So it'd be
okay, it doesn't.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's messy.
Just look at we'll put the link in the show notes. Just look at the photo and you'll know what I mean. And then also similarly to the 750 Ti, because of the fact that the wattage tops out at 75 watts, you actually don't need any power connectors. So it's awesome when you don't have to worry about that. It's awesome when you don't have obviously a power supply that has that cable. It's great for use in slim cases or home theater PC contexts. You just plug it in and it sort of receives all the power it needs through the PCI slot. So there didn't seem to be any announcement or any substantial fanfare surrounding this one.
Nope, it just showed up on the website and somebody noticed it, or I guess Nate Dogg noticed it. But I put in an email to MSI asking what's the retail availability date and the price, but it's Thanksgiving kind of week in the US, so I have not heard back.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll hear back from him soon. But no, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I remember when the 750 Ti came out, and that was actually a pretty big deal. I mean, that was an awesome card. It was a good value, and then the fact that you didn't need any power cables for it was just a bonus. It was basically a way in which you could build a pretty cheap PC that actually beat out the Xbox One and the PS4 in performance.
Yeah, my main bugbear with this card is we've got dual stacked IO again.
Yeah,
that's
unfortunate.
Can we not go back to the days where you had the extra one, so in this case the DVI, just on a little ribbon cable that pokes up from the top if you've got a full height card, if you put the full height bracket in it?
You can do that on VGA pretty easily, and that's how a lot of them did it, but I don't think that's easily doable on DVI.
Signal integrity.
That's the problem. Yeah. So I don't, and the problem is then if you only do, so you can't do DVI on a ribbon. So then you're limited to basically either 2 full-size ports, so DisplayPort and HDMI, or maybe HDMI and 2 mini DisplayPort, which I'm really disappointed mini DisplayPort kind of went away on desktop graphics cards.
Yeah.
Because I think, what is it? AMD was really pushing it with, I think, the 6000 series.
Yeah, Fantasy cards.
Yeah. And then it just kind of went away. Just everybody went back to full-size DisplayPort.
It's a shame because you can get mini DisplayPort to full-size DisplayPort cables, so you don't need any adapter along the line.
And I mean, I can kind of understand it, probably user confusion, nobody knew what it was and stuff like that. But it's pretty common on laptops now.
Yep.
Apple, of course, used it a lot and then ditched it.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. But I mean,
they did all away, baby.
Yep. They did use it for a while, though, so I mean, I think people are more familiar with mini DisplayPort at this point. Just
the Thunderbolt connector co-opted the form factor of mini DisplayPort.
Yeah, exactly. So now Thunderbolt has it, which, I mean, that's just its own mess of availability. But, I mean, I think people are familiar enough with it now that I don't see why they don't use it to save space.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because, something like this, we could get all, I mean, you can get mini DisplayPort to DVI adapters cheap enough. So, I mean, I would have loved to see this card. Yeah. So, one HDMI port just to make it easy to plug in a TV if you want to hook this up to an HCPC type of setup. And then 2 mini DisplayPort, and you can adapt that to full-size DisplayPort or DVI or HDMI or even VGA if you just really had to. And then you could have a single slot, low-profile card. Though, I mean, the cooler would have stayed dual slot. Actually, I would prefer it to stay dual slot.
If you don't have the double stack rear I/O, you could probably get the cooler with a bit more metal on it towards the back of the card, and you could probably go down to a single slot.
Well, the main thing would be the fans at that point.
You just integrate them into the metal heatsink. Back in the day.
Yeah, which I mean, it's a 75 watt. This would probably be a little bit too high of a wattage to get away with that easily.
I remember them
at least with reasonable noise.
I remember them doing it on the low profile HD 7750, which was, I'm pretty sure it was a 70 watt card as well.
77.
Couldn't you just have the cooler be one slot thick, if you will, but then have it extend the full height of the PCI bracket?
Then you lose your low
And then
profile
have a
card.
big fan on it, or huh?
Then you don't have a low profile card anymore.
Well, you can have it low profile one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for like a slim HTPC case, though, you would want it like low profile and height. But I mean, I don't know. I think like a single slot blower design would actually be really interesting because you don't really see blower designs anymore either.
But how could you do that?
Slot blower designs, I should say.
Yeah,
right,
block
but
all the
would
rear.
you not be able to do that if you had ports basically covering the entire rear of the card?
Oh yeah, there's no exhaust. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's why we don't see
anyway,
it anymore.
even if the stock cooler was dual slot, I mean, if it had single slot rear I/O, it would make it really interesting to put a water block on it or something like that.
Yes. Which is why it's a shame that they don't at least give you the option to do that by removing the cooler and tying that on and whatever, because they've got the DVI encased in metal.
Yeah, that's my main issue with the with that is the water cooling or lack thereof.
So I
mean, you
imagine
can
the
do
number
it,
of
you're just not getting it down to one slot.
yeah, I imagine the market for that is extremely tiny though, so I can see why they don't bother.
But I want it.
Well, you can do it. You just need to get out the Dremel.
See, John knows.
I'm not
John
doing
knows
a
how
lot
this
of-
works, right? If even if you're a tiny minority, if they're abandoning a feature you want, they're abandoning a whole market of wealthy, high-paying users, and they're gonna have hell to pay.
Yes, I want it now.
I want it now. MSI has failed us. It's okay though. It's okay. But hey, why don't we change topic to actually a single slot graphics card that is actually a single slot graphics card, not even a dual slot that could be a single slot, is an actual single slot coming out the door. We will have to cross over into AMD land.
Yay!
And this is an announcement by HIS. It is the RX 460 Slim-iCooler OC, which is a single slot PCI powered Radeon RX 460 with an awful name. This was something
Don't they all
that,
have awful names now?
something that forum user Robbie found, and there isn't a product page or anything like that yet, but it has been reported on by a few websites. And
There is a product page now.
Yeah.
oh, really?
That's been updated.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
up.
wow.
Mhm.
They published that over Thanksgiving.
Well, you
Oh, look
have
at
to
that.
remember that Thanksgiving doesn't apply in Asia or actually
Yes,
anywhere
yes,
apart
yes.
from the States.
But the world revolves around the United States. All right, here's the product page.
I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, look at that. Okay, pretty cool. So it's got a semi-passive fan on it, which is actually pretty interesting.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, prolong the lifespan of the fans. Start to
Oh,
spin when the GPU
sweet.
temperature reaches about 600 C. I presume that is supposed to say 660 degrees Celsius.
There's a typo.
It stops spinning. It's stop spinning when started and when GPU temperature drops to about 500 C. So I think that's supposed to say if the fan starts spinning, but then the temperature drops below 50 degrees Celsius, it'll stop spinning. I believe is what it's trying to say there.
Yeah, I think they stuffed that
Provide
one
a
up slightly.
silence environment for enjoying home movie and casual gaming.
Okay, this was definitely published by the Taiwan office then.
It's all right though. You could get at the features, like you know what they mean to say. Ooh, it comes with a strong lion image. Nice.
Well,
Guess that's part of their branding for.
because the picture on the card makes all the difference when it comes to the performance.
Absolutely. I mean, just like race stripes on your sports car.
Yeah, that
Definitely
adds
make it
10
fast.
horsepower.
At least, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Have you seen? I mean, look, the technology behind race car stripes has really advanced quite a lot in the past 3 or 4 years.
I know you can get carbon fiber wraps for extra lightweight as well.
That's right. You'll go even faster. They weigh less.
Anyhow,
But yeah, so this is an actual single slot cooler. RX 460 is pretty decent card. I was pretty excited when it came out, and I guess it's sort of in a similar. Maybe you guys will disagree, but sort of in a similar space is actually the 1050 Ti, in terms of price point, performance, so on and so forth.
No, I think a 1050 is quite a bit more powerful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for 460. I'm pretty
wasn't
sure.
it like a 1052 gigabyte being below the RX 460 and then 1054 gigabyte being above it? Or something? I mean, it's one of the
look it up.
cards
I'm
was
pretty-
like that.
I thought it was. I mean, I thought the 1050 was. We should know this, guys. I thought the 1050 was more powerful, but not like 50% or anything crazy. But I could be misremembering.
Let me look it up because I'm curious. Whoops, wrong
Interesting little tidbit while James goes and looks that up. It's designed with a PCI Express ×8, not ×16. According to the
Well, I
thing.
mean, I wonder
probably
why
doesn't
they
need
did
it.
that, but that doesn't really matter.
No, it's just weird how they specify that instead of like it's a X16 slot. Why not just say it's X16?
I wonder if they save money doing that, or if maybe it was a limitation imposed by the fact they were trying to cram all this into a single slot. I'm not sure.
I don't
never-
Well, a
I'd-
single slot of it only is for the cooler, though. The
Yeah.
PCB would be the same.
exactly.
Okay, so a 460 is about 75 to 80% as powerful as a 1050 Ti.
Okay.
So
Okay,
It's
so
very comparable.
so it's the Ti then is anywhere from 25 to 33% more powerful. Okay, so it's a little more powerful on a relative basis than I thought, but yeah, that was about what I imagined. Makes sense to me. All right, so we'll share that highly entertaining and informative product page in the show notes. And that leaves us with our main feature, which I see as card form factors.
Yes.
All right, well, John, I'll let you take over because I have no idea what you mean by that.
This was a kind of a late. What's the word for it? We kind of rushed to get this topic together.
Okay.
We were originally going to talk about DC to DC power supplies and whatnot, but we're waiting on a couple of little. What's the word for it? Little treats from a couple of suppliers. So we decided we'd talk about card form factors as well, which is convenient because that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, about single slot and low profile and whatnot, and why we're not seeing anything.
I wish both of them would. I'm really glad though that at least we have these two cards, if nothing else, because
Yeah,
the
it's a
last
start.
two generations have been pretty lacking on both points, either single slot or low profile. And I don't remember the last time we had a low profile and single slot and like a decent card. I think that's been ages and ages. Since
HD
that's happened.
7750.
Is it a 7750 or 7570?
It was 7750 because I had one.
Okay,
I ran
because that
one.
was actually a pretty good card at the time.
Yeah, it was the fastest AMD card without the PCI Express power.
And what was the wattage on it?
I think it was just under 70 or about 70.
Okay.
So
I mean,
it's definitely
No,
it
it's
wasn't a
interesting.
quiet card.
well, sure, but like I think one could argue that the limitation isn't really a like, oh wow, cards run too hot nowadays. I mean, especially more recently as both AMD and Nvidia have really focused on improving the efficiency of their silicon. It really just seems to come down to business decisions, right? Like, it's not these more compact form factors, with the exception of like maybe one card, such as the 1050 and 460. Like, it's not expressly created or designed by Nvidia or AMD to fill the needs of that form factor or to make it easier for OEMs to build towards that form factor, and then the OEMs themselves don't feel terribly compelled to make a plethora or even oftentimes any single slot cards or very many, reduced height cards at all. So I wonder if that is an accurate reflection of how much these sorts of form factors are demanded in the market. I don't feel that it is. I feel like it's a missed opportunity, but I'm also not losing lots of money if I design and make one of these cards and they don't sell. So
yeah, I think that it's like mini ITX has like become a very big market, but even within that, like almost all mini ITX systems can take a full height dual slot card. So I don't like the subset of people who want to do, and I think it's also like it used to be you would want like a single slot card or a low profile card or a low profile single slot card was mostly like HTPC users, but onboard video is good enough now that I think that market's kind of collapsed.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think with the ability to do the single slot low profile or one or the other, we're kind of in that weird market segment between the integrated graphics and the high-end gaming system kind of thing. As you're looking at, well, the majority of the market would be pre-built, and you either have a low-grade thing or you're selling as a gaming computer, and you're not going to sell a gaming computer with a 1050 or a RX 460, for example.
You'd be surprised.
Okay. But you can't
see gaming computers that have, or like gaming, I'm doing air quotes here.
Okay.
Like I see them
gaming with Iris Pro graphics.
Oh no, I've seen them with like Radeon like 240s, like really really low end cards. And like what happens is like this is like CyberPower and iBuyPower and companies like that, and like they sell it as like I don't think they say like high-end gaming computer at all. They just say, ooh, it comes with dedicated graphics.
Chuck an R3 230 in it.
Yeah. So it has dedicated graphics, you're right. But realistically, if it has like a decent, like especially some of the newer AMD processors, I wouldn't be surprised if the onboard's actually more powerful.
Yeah. My A10 7860K, I think the equivalent's an R7 240 in graphics. This is integrated in a 65-watt quad core. So why would I bother?
If that came with a 230 and it didn't have like the hybrid crossfire or whatever turned on,
I'll be kneecapping it.
It would actually be a downgrade in performance.
Yeah,
but it has dedicated graphics though.
You can tell your friends. Oh yeah. Well, my computer has dedicated graphics.
It's an R series dedicated graphics too.
Like super dedicated graphics too. Not like mildly dedicated, like dedicated all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just to me it seems like a weird market segment. It's not like back in the day with the HD 750 that I've mentioned, and before then it was a 6. I think you get a 770, and before then the 5770, which was a low profile single slot, but actually had a PCI Express connector on it. Like they kind of made sense because integrated graphics wasn't where it is today. But even like the APUs nowadays, you can play Minecraft on it, not a problem. You can play most MOBAs, that kind of stuff on it, not a problem. Even RS Pro is pretty good.
Yeah, like I don't think NVIDIA plans to make anything less than the 1050.
No.
Like I don't think there's going to be a 1040 because like why would you buy one?
They're just going to rebrand the GTX 220 that turned into the 320, which turned into the 420, which is like the 710. They rebranded about 10 times, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and really,
they're still selling it.
Reason. Yeah, because like basically the only people who buy those is people who just like the onboard video went out or something like that.
Or Windows 10 said your IGP. Or Windows 10 said your IGP's too old.
Yeah, something like that. So like really there's not any, since that's all it's needed for, like, I mean, of course there's like a lot of kind of disregard for like rebranding, which I mean it's annoying, but I mean it really doesn't make sense to develop a whole new product for that market segment because like they're not aiming for performance at that point. It's just like basic video.
Yeah.
So
you get
if it's like a 5-year-old design, yeah, if it's a 5-year-old architecture, it's not a big deal.
No.
Or even older than that, I guess.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're being hopeful and like wishing for, say, a low profile RX 470 or 1060 or something.
Yeah, low profile 1060 would be amazing.
Even with a PCI Express connector on the end, I would not have any issue with it.
Oh yeah, I mean 1060. Yeah, it'd have to have power, but
It's been done before.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, and I believe that will transition us into the, oh thank goodness we're no longer doing the expanding title, featured forum Fred. I would be talking for the next 5 minutes if we kept that going. So for our featured forum Fred this episode, we have the bottlenecked cylindrical MITX enclosure. And again, we'll share the link to that in the show notes. So I believe this was something that had an Indiegogo campaign a while ago, which didn't move very far, mostly as a function of the fact that I just don't think it got a lot of attention. It wasn't really well known. But there is currently a Kickstarter for it running that I can't access because for some reason my computer's decided that it can't trust Kickstarter, and so it's not loading.
Have you tried Kickstarter yet?
Or is Kickstarter down? Maybe it's not my. Maybe I'm blaming my computer a little too quickly.
All right, because both James and I have got that page
down.
Yeah,
yes,
both James
right.
and I
Server
had
in
that
my
page
basement is. So in any case, it's definitely an interesting design. Very very simple. I'd encourage folks to read through the forum thread, if only just because it's kind of, as is true for many of the projects that exist on Small Form Factor forum and otherwise, it's always kind of fun just to sort of read through and see people's thoughts and feedback. And this was something that MindFoxy first posted about, and then the creator actually discovered the post on the forum, joined the forum,
which is good,
and is now participating. Yeah, no, for sure. But it's great. It's great that the forum itself, like obviously something that someone that was part of a community brought forward, but it's great to see creators notice that and then actually want to sort of become engaged with us and to interface and ask and answer questions and so on and so forth.
Well,
so that's a great thing to see.
It's a good marketing opportunity for them, and also make sure you don't have any of misinformation floating about.
Yeah. So, given that I can't access the Kickstarter right now, can any of you guys, like, what's the status of that? What's the time left? What have they raised so far?
So it has 34 days to go, and then it's only at, it's actually the original thing's in euros, so it's converting it. But right now in US dollars, it's at $4,177 out of a goal of $137,726.
That's a lofty goal.
So, yeah, it's got a ways to go. Yeah, but
all right. Well,
have we said what it is? I don't.
Yeah, so it's a bottlenecked ITX enclosure. So we've seen a few other projects where they've basically looked and have been inspired by things like the enclosure for the Mac Pro. So it's a cylindrical case. I'm reading through some of the features right now.
Yeah, I guess
how do they describe it on the Kickstarter? That's actually probably the best.
I think what it is it's a cylindrical case, and then I think because I think we've talked about the Dune case, if I recall.
That's right.
I think on the early episode.
Yes.
And like the main, I think, differentiating difference between this and the Dune case is that there's less custom parts. Like this just uses like a normal mini ITX motherboard, SFX power supply, normal video card. I think it's a bit bigger than the Dune case, but it has better cooling as a result. So just a standard, I think, looks like a 120 millimeter fan at the top, stuff like that. So of course it's a round cylinder like the Dune case and the Mac Pro, so they all kind of look the same vaguely, but it is a bit bigger, so it has more expandability options compared to like the Dune case. Not sure what else. Yeah, dual slot cooler, video card, I should say.
Yep, up to.
It looks like you could do pretty much a full length.
Yeah, 210mm if you air cool the CPU, or 220 if you use the case fan to cool the CPU.
Oh, and it's a 140 fan on top, and you can actually do a water cooler, which is, I think, a big differentiating factor between this and the other cylinder cases.
Because that was low profile air only, that one. The Dune case.
Oh, was that what it was?
I'm pretty sure it was.
So that's a big difference because not very many card options for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you could, stick a water cooler in this, and I forget what the dimensions are. Let's see.
What's the volume?
That's what
The
I'm
one
looking
metric for which all enclosures are judged.
That involves finding pi.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't remember how to calculate the volume of a cylinder? Come on, guys.
I left high school, like, what?
How do you calculate the area of a circle?
I left high school like 13 years ago.
See, you should have remembered. Your math teacher told you this stuff would be useful.
Actually, it doesn't say the dimensions.
No. I'm scrolling through the whole
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
Scrolling up and down, it's like, I don't see it.
No,
look
there's
on
like
the website.
internal dimensions
Wait, they
and stuff
don't
like that.
include the dimensions of the Kickstarter? How could you not?
10 liters. It's on the website.
Ah, okay.
There you go. Okay.
No,
10
I'm
liters
curious
is pretty
how he
good.
calculated it. Whether he calculated it as like a cylinder or as a rectangular.
If it's
prism.
10 liters a cylinder, it's bigger than you think it is.
Let's see, pi. Let's see, squared
As if it's, yeah.
times the height. Oops. 29.
It definitely, from the picture, looks bigger than a Mac
definitely
Pro.
did something wrong.
This enclosure is 13 miles tall. Wait.
Miles?
Times pi. Let's try this again. Times.
You're trying to convert from like
Okay.
liters, which is metric, to imperial.
No, I'm doing it millimeters.
Oh, okay. Joshua mentioned
Because
miles.
that's the nice thing with metric is like you take the millimeter, time the millimeter, time the millimeter, and then you just move the decimal 6 places over, and that's liter.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Join the rest
as
of the
an
world.
American, I can say that and to be clear, I don't think I've talked about this before. We don't use imperial here.
I know.
Like
That's
that's
standard.
an English thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah, get
customary.
mad at the British.
I think it's some customary American units or something like that.
Which is based on
it's
metric now.
actually, yeah, Jordan in the chat says I mention it almost every podcast. Well, it's important though because like metric is so much better. It's just like it's superior in pretty much every way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he is calculating the volume based on a cylinder, not just a rectangular prism.
So it's bigger than
But I
you
think
think it
that's
is.
fair.
Yeah, but it gets kind of weird though, because like how
suppose
far do you take that?
Your average household bucket is 10 liters, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
What's
But,
10
I
liters to
mean, like-
gallons?
Which I mean, since it's like a perfect cylinder, it's okay. But I mean, like with other cases that aren't just like a rectangular box, it gets kind of weird. Like how far do you go in like calculating its volume? Like especially something like say like the NZXT Manta or like the Corsair 380T, which are kind of like rounded, weird shapes.
There you're going to need like calculus to calculate
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
volume.
exactly. So like
Area under the curve.
I'm pretty sure like they calculate. Well, a lot of like non-SFF case manufacturers don't typically include a volume measurement. They just include like the height, the width, and the depth, and then you just multiply and get the volume.
Sure.
Yeah, because nobody cares.
Yeah, I think Silverstone is one of the few that actually include a volume measurement on their spec sheet because they they make a lot of like mini ITX like SFF systems that are actually SFF, unlike the NZXT Manta.
Or the Bitfinex Prodigy.
Yeah, so like a volume measurement on their website makes sense because then you can kind of roughly compare against their different models because
Yeah.
they make a ton of models. It's crazy. But
So what's the average size of a household bucket in the States?
10 gallon.
10-gallon bucket? Or is it do you guys, is there a 2.5-gallon bucket?
I think
do-
2.5 sounds about right.
2.5. So that,
Like, what? The only standardized one I'm aware of is a 10-gallon bucket.
okay. Because I'm just
But that
thinking.
is large. Like a 10-gallon bucket is like for use in a construction site or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking household bucket for washing your car.
Oh, I don't think that's standardized at all.
Or approximately. Well,
I mean,
the case
2.5
works out to be 2.6 gallons, so it's about your average 10-litre / 2.5-gallon bucket in volume. So just imagine that sitting on your desk. It's actually bigger than you think it is.
We should just compare it to like Coke bottles since those are standardized.
Well, then it's 5 Coke bottles. Well, no, they're not, because you guys have... we've got 2.25 litre Coke bottles.
Oh, well, they call them 2 liter here. I don't know if they're rounding it, but
no, ours are definitely... They sell 2 litres and 2.25s. The 2 litres that you can buy them in the fridge.
Why would you sell both?
Marketing. The 2 litres you buy in the fridge for the same price as the 2.25s you buy warm on the shelf.
Oh, so like, which do you value more? The refrigeration or?
Yeah. So either way, it's about 5 big bottles of Coke.
Well, yeah, but then like compressed into a cylinder. I mean, that's about how much. Yeah, it's about what I would have expected. It's not diminutive by any stretch, but it's, you know. I mean, the N case M1 is like just under 13 liters, so it's smaller than that.
Smaller than that, but only because of the missing bits down the sides, because it's not a cube.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so for this one, I mean, they do the thing where the power supply's pointing downward and the graphics card is mounted with the ports on the bottom, so all the cabling would have to run kind of beneath the base and up into the enclosure. I'm not sure how much clearance they give for that though.
Enough, hopefully.
Well, the height just went up 2 inches, and now it's a 14-liter case.
Yeah.
So that I believe that would be 7 2-liter bottles of Coke.
Yeah. At what point are you just like counting stuff you don't need to count? It's like
then you get into whole like external PSUs.
Yeah, I was about to mention.
Oh no, we're not going there.
Power bricks.
Oh, the great SFF
this would
debate.
be the last episode of this podcast if we were to delve into that topic. We would be guaranteed to lose half of all our listeners if we took any side on that. All right.
Well, that means we'd have one listener left.
We laugh instead of cry.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. All right. Well, that wraps up for the forum, Fred. I do see a note of Auckland 7.5, which of course is something I believe only you can speak to, John. So why don't you talk about Auckland 7.5?
As next weekend, smallformfactor.net is sponsoring a couple of prizes at Auckland, which is a local LAN in New Zealand, in the city of Auckland. I know it's very localized, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. We're doing giving away a couple of CPU coolers. Their website is really irritating for those who are watching the live stream. I'll be there. I'll be doing a feature article on the event. It probably won't be a big one, but yeah, it's just a regular old LAN. I can't think of anything else.
Still do those?
They still do those.
I wish they were more popular, but like here in the United States, like they're not. I guess it's just a geographic thing. I mean, the U.S. is a very big country, so like it's harder to get enough people together outside of big cities. But
we probably have about 4 a year in this city. So we've got Ping Zero, Ping Zero, which is 200 people a time. They do once a year. Echo Land, which is about 50 people each time. They do that about 4 times a year, I think. And Auckland's once a year.
Oh, why is it 7.5?
Because it's a kind of rushed kind of one. It's not fully advertised and pre-planned, anything like that. It's a smaller event. I forgot to mention that.
Oh man, but that should be a lot of fun. What's the typical turnout, do you know?
To Auckland, usually up to 20. So it's relatively small, but then you get the opportunity to socialize with everyone and high chance of winning something.
No, I'm preferential to the smaller, more intimate.
Yeah, we kind of have the balance between the really small ones to the large one, which is Ping Zero, which is actually done in a stadium now.
Oh wow!
Of course it is, because that's necessary.
Yeah, but it's amazing how even a small country like New Zealand, which we've only got 4.5 million people total, we can still manage to fill a stadium for a LAN. So LANs aren't dead.
Well, like how long does it take to drive from like the southern tip of the country to the northern tip of the country?
Longer than you think. There's also a gap in the middle.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what, is it like 5 or 6 hours more than that?
No, longer than that. It's 5 or 6 hours
Okay.
for me to drive to the bottom of the island that we're on at the moment.
Okay.
New Zealand's actually like lengthwise longer than California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The standard projection of the world maps are very misleading.
Misleading, yes.
I think I put New Zealand. There's a online kind of visualization web app that I came across recently. You can drag countries or states around.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
dragging
cool.
New Zealand over the states. New Zealand's like the length of the eastern seaboard.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's actually fairly large then.
Yeah.
But like, what's the population of Auckland?
1.2 million approximately.
Oh, okay.
So about a third of the country lives in this city.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and with that type of concentration, then I could see why you could have such a big land. Then.
Yeah.
That's neat, though.
I'm
And
looking
with
forward to it.
with that, we'll obviously look forward to your own reporting and photography, but I believe that is it for this episode. So thank you to all our listeners, all 2 of them, potentially only one moving forward, for tuning in. My name is Joshua Ramirez, a.k.a. Playful Phoenix. I was joined today by Abophobia, which is James, as well as Confucius, which is John. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.